Hi, I'm Natasha Sinyanovich, and this is Women Like Sex, a myth-busting podcast that examines the many, many medical, scientific, and social facts about female sexuality that were never, in fact, facts. Especially the very modern-day belief that women don't like sex as much as men do. I'll be speaking with experts, educators, friends, comedians, and more across a spectrum of ages, genders, and cultures to flip the scripts on myths and misconceptions that have long been dictated by not women. Together, we'll replace so much inaccurate messaging with healthier, smarter, factual facts and get the sex ed we wished we'd gotten. For something we do so often, it's not always easy to talk about healthy sex and sexuality, especially with one's kids, where the stakes can seem as high as the level of embarrassment. This week, Greg and Ray share their insights and questions with each other and with all of us about what they're doing to avoid harmful myths and stereotypes with their teenage daughters. We're all friends, and they also make me laugh really hard here, as they always do, to the point where I had to cut about 10 minutes of just pure coughing fits for me. Ray is a biomedical researcher fighting cancer and diabetes one molecule at a time at a major research institution in Nashville. Greg works in policy, and their daughters go to school together. I promise them no judgment if they came on the show, and 99% keep that promise. In the end, they say they learn from one another and that they hope that our conversation inspires and helps other fathers and other families to talk more freely about sex, to ask each other questions, to always keep communication with kids open, no matter how uncomfortable it might get. I'd also love to hear from you, dear listeners. Did you learn something from this episode? What do you teach your kids about healthy sexuality? What would you want to share with or ask other parents or guardians? My email is included online and at the end of this episode, which begins with me whipping out a plastic model of what else? The female sex organ. Do you know what this is?
I do.
You've asked me before, so I know.
You didn't know before.
Oh, I did not know.
I don't think that I knew before. I think that's true. Although I've seen it a lot of times since, different models and different Instagram posts and stuff.
I have a really cool one with one of its little crura, one of the glands with its fist up in the air. So it's just
Pussy power.
Comrade clitoris.
Comrade clit, that is fantastic.
So I want to start with asking you what your sex ed was. Way back when, and we're all about the same age.
I had one class, I think, in health class, if I remember correctly, and I'm not 100% sure, but it was to put the condom on something, but it wasn't extensive at all. I went to a bunch of Catholic schools too, where this was, of course, we didn't talk anything about it at those places, but this was in high school. So
for me, it was the same. It was one unit in I think it was 8th grade health class. So we did how to eat right and how to take care of yourself. And then 1 month-long period was sex and sex ed. I do remember we didn't put a condom on a banana, but we all watched the teacher do that. And that was a very awkward, very awkward teacher. Mm-hmm. I think everything I knew about sex at that time, or vast majority of it, came from just rumors and friends. It wasn't, nothing that she shared with us was like, okay, well, that's a good place to start. What else can we learn?
Yeah, I'll even go one step further and say nothing that any adults shared with me was of any use at all, that I recall.
In fairness, not much of what my friends shared with me was actually useful or good either. But yeah, that's about right. It wasn't let's find out what Dad has to say.
Right.
We're going to talk about your kids in a minute, or what you've been telling your kids. Years ago, when I was still living in Italy, and I was living with my friend, basically helping raise her kids for a period of time. And we were driving back somewhere, and the kids were about 7 and 5, I'd say at this point, maybe 6 and 8. And I was driving, they were in the back. And the girl, who's the older one, asked her brother, "Do you know what sex is?" And he said, "No, do you?" And she said, "Yeah." And I'm sitting there looking in the rearview mirror like,
this is gold. Guys, slow it down. I'm going to get the tape recorder out.
Wait. Like, it's got to be, one
back
take.
At the top, right?
I wish to God that I recorded it, because she's like, so it's when a man takes his penis and rubs it in between a woman's boobs.
Oh, wow.
And I just was like, rah! I was like, no, that's not it. I'm like,
Good
that's
enough
fine.
for now.
Yeah.
Good enough. No, I mean, as far as like the confusion around sex, that lasted forever. And that was like, I think that what you just defined as those kids called sex is what I was told what French kissing was. And I heard people were French kissing. I'm like, Jesus, how are they getting away with that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how that even would happen.
That like rubbing a penis between boobs was French kissing.
Exactly. And I just was just completely mystified. It's like, man, there's so much in this world I don't know.
It's a big, big world.
When you said that, I thought you meant that French kissing was sex.
Oh, yeah.
And
no,
I
oh,
thought
yeah.
that for a
For a
little
long time.
while.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say a long time, a little
Couple
bit
of
there.
days. The thing that made me most scared, I was told that when they talked about the sex act, and it was like, you got a tadpole in you and it'll go into the girl, and then that tadpole will make the girl pregnant. And either I misheard it or it just was like, that was all, and I ran with it. But I was under the impression that I had one giant tadpole in me and it was going to come out at some point when I peed. And so I can recall almost a full grade of terror at the urinal. Is this the one where I lose the one shot I have at having a kid? And just like, okay, good. That one didn't include a tadpole. So I think I'm still good. And it was that way. I mean, I'm thinking a solid year before I was like, I got to ask somebody, this can't be the way people live. Like this is not okay.
Haven't heard a lot of other people stressing about peeing this much.
No, something's not right.
I know a woman that thought that for a little bit that if she's peeing in a toilet and there's sperm or semen in the toilet, that she could get pregnant.
Oh, I'm sure there are a lot of women who thought that
Right.
for not just a little bit.
Yeah.
I just remember that being a myth that floated around when I was a kid or a teenager. I don't remember ever believing that. But, oh my God, the tadpole. I love that.
I don't know where that wire got crossed, but that was I just looking
no
every
tadpole
time. No
today.
tadpole can still be a dad. Like, why would I even worry about that as like a kid? Like, why that wasn't a goal.
Yeah, but that's so instilled in us. They're going to grow up, get married, and have kids.
Yeah.
I think I was 7 or so when I asked my parents, what does the term giving somebody away mean? Like, why do you give the bride away? And they were like, well, the father walks her down the aisle. And I was like, yeah, but give her away. And they're like, oh, because legally, historically, the woman belongs to the man, to the father.
Property,
and then he
yeah.
passed her over to the husband. And I was just like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I still was like, I will get married. I just had this idea, even though I never have.
But not doing that thing.
But I'm not doing that. You guys
Yeah.
can walk behind me. You can walk next to me.
Watch me from afar.
Watch me from afar, but you're not.
Can't meet
Yeah.
anybody. Yeah.
Do you remember when you started becoming sexually active, what was fiction and what was fact? This thing that I was told, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. French kissing is one.
I'd say it's not about like a sex act or like what it constitutes sex. And I'll preface this by saying, like, now that I'm a parent, I can recognize how hard this work is. But for a long time, I kind of would have classified my parents' job at this as less than stellar. Now that I know how hard it is, it's actually pretty good, right? So it's I'm cutting them a lot of slack. But the biggest myth around it was the only way that sex is ever okay is if two people are in the throes of mad, passionate love. There's no safe sex outside of both people being in love and the intention of getting married. That's not that harmful, but it did put this sense of like anything other than that is something bad.
And were those two people male, female?
Oh, undeniably. Yeah. And I wouldn't say that was rooted in anything other than their lived experience. There's a great tolerance and acceptance of all sorts of relationships and love, but there was never a like, maybe you'll be into dudes or maybe you won't know, you have this, it was just, you will know that the person you are in love with is the person you're supposed to have sex with. And that's pretty much as complex as the story gets. If you're not in love with them, you're not supposed to have sex with them. If you are in love with them, you can have sex with them and you're going to get married right after. So like that was the full spectrum of available sexual activity, which as a dad now, that's a tidy story. That's like, if I could get them to buy into this model, but it does leave a lot out.
Well, at least you had that you'll get married afterwards. Because for a lot of people, it's you'll fall passionately, madly in love,
That's true.
then get married, and then have the sexy time.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Yeah. I think that was the largest kind of blind spot that my education had created that really like made everything a little bit more complicated than it had to be. But there's a lot of other ways it could get complicated. That
Asking early girlfriends to marry you, or like
Yeah,
after,
well, that's
after
right,
hookups,
and
actually, like,
basically-
will you marry me? Like,
Yeah,
something
exactly.
else.
What's
Like,
happening here?
We did this.
My mom said that if we make out, we get married. Like, what's going on? Yeah, so
Greg's got a tally on his wall. Like,
Oh,
number
geez.
21 said no. Like, I don't get it.
I must not be good at this. Yeah.
What am I doing wrong?
Well, I didn't have like hardly any input from my parents or family, anything like that. But I guess the unexpected thing was that the first time I had sex, I figured it was just going to be awkward and like really weird or something like that. And it wasn't like that at all. I was with somebody that I think was more experienced than me. Well, doesn't have to be. Could have been her first time, but I don't think so. But she was like almost like a professional. She'd like had the cigarette afterwards and she's like, "Oh, that was really great." And I was like, I didn't know what she was doing. I was not what I was expecting the whole experience to be like. But I didn't have anything from my parents, really.
Wow.
The talk that I had with my dad was we were driving, and I think I was like 16 or something. And my dad said, "You know what sex is, right?" And I was like, "Yes, Dad, I know what it is." He was like, "Good, don't do it until you're married." And that's it.
Wow.
And my family was very Catholic, was very not accepting of anything.
Greg, you're Catholic.
Catholic school for a lot of it.
Did you go to church growing up?
Yeah.
Every Sunday?
Maybe not every Sunday. All the sacraments, all the way through confirmation. Many Sundays.
We went every Sunday. I'm confirmed.
Yeah, I'm confirmed. We're checking. I'm confirmed as well, so we're good.
We're good. Our souls are saved.
Yep.
I'm not confirmed.
Should we pause and go ahead and get started on the conversion and making sure we're all going to be in heaven together?
I'm half Cath, half decath. I'm Serbian Orthodox, but didn't grow up with any religion. My mom was convinced for a while. I mean, up until a few years ago, because she looked for me in a registrar. She was convinced that her mom, who is Serbian Orthodox, my paternal side is Catholic on paper, that my grandmother had secretly baptized me to save my soul, but had not.
My dad was the most Catholic in the family, but very pragmatic about it. He's like, just do the math on this one. If it's real, then what's a Sunday? If it's not real, you have some times with friends. But like that's a very low ask. Let's just get going.
Yeah.
Every Sunday, it's a low bar, and then you get forever in heaven. That's an easy one. Let's just do that. Like it was just math on.
Yeah. Community, it's nice singing.
Yeah.
The incense is nice.
See the same people every
Just,
week. How's it going? Yeah.
Self-actualization.
Flipping the roles, you're now fathers of girls. Ray, you have one daughter. Greg, two daughters. One of your daughters is in the same grade, right?
Yeah.
As Ray's daughter. And they just recently came home with some homework. And we have to say that they go to a pretty liberal private school. The kind of sex ed that they're getting is not typical to Nashville, and it's definitely not typical to Tennessee.
Yeah. My daughter, I think she did not want to do it. At least she outwardly was saying she didn't want to do it. But she had that little crinky little smile in the corner of her mouth that I kind of felt like she was enjoying it a little bit, because she, I think, was pretty curious about what the answers to the questions would be. My favorite question that she asked was, when do you think it's appropriate to start having sex? And I immediately, just without even thinking about it, said sophomore year in college.
Is that a conclusion you had drawn before the conversation?
No,
Wow.
It was just like, that's about right. The way my daughter is, she likes clarity and she likes rules, and she's like the opposite of me and my wife. So I think she enjoyed hearing that. And of course, my wife was not going to give her that kind of pleasure with that simple answer. She was like, well, it depends on everything, who you're with, how long the relationship has been. But then, I mean, in thinking about it, my wife is actually correct that it's a very complicated thing. Like, who's your first, that kind of choice, if you have a choice.
Yeah.
So much of the conversations that I have with people end up falling into the realm of sexual violence, because it's really hard to talk about these things
It is, yeah.
without that.
We had a similar experience with the same homework, and I have an older daughter who went through the same homework assignment 3 years previously.
It's your younger daughter. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh, this hurts. This hurts because your older daughter is then that much older.
exactly right.
This is I'm going to take a moment of silent pain here. I will.
It's the younger one. It was a very different conversation between the two of them. Our older one behaved in a manner similar to how you described your daughter behaving, kind of a little awkward, kind of don't want to do this, but I am curious about these things. So let's all just buckle up and see if we can get through this. This time around, my younger daughter's like, hey, you guys ready for the sex talk? Have a seat. I got my homework here. We got to jump in. And we're like, wow, what a very different approach to the whole thing.
This is how she was when she was 3 when I met her.
Our older daughter felt like a stenographer. Like, okay, when do you think it's appropriate to begin to be sexually active? And I went with the joke when I get uncomfortable. It's like 37 or 38. It's up to you. right away.
How old are your the daughters you're talking about with this homework assignment?
13.
13, yeah.
In 8th grade.
Rising 8th.
The older daughter was pretty much like I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to write down every word you say. And then when I get to the last one, I'm going to race back to my room. Thank you, we're done. Like it was just, but the younger daughter was like, what do you mean? Can we talk about that a little more? Like was into the conversation. And that I appreciated that because it sought clarity where more clarity was helpful, but I didn't appreciate it because I was trying to be helpful, but I don't know the answers. I don't know what the right answer is. And that's a very uncomfortable place to be. I think I'm probably more uncomfortable with that than she is. That's scary for a kid to look at their adult in their life and be like, man, they don't know what's up, do they? You want them to know what's up about, what's for dinner and what do I go in a fire and is this safe? And oh man, this is an important topic and you don't seem to know it. So that was tricky, I'd say. But it was a fine conversation, it seemed to me. Though, what do you consider sexually active was an interesting one for us.
My next question.
That didn't pop right out of my mouth. I had to think about it for a while, and there was a lot of back and forth. Eventually, I settled on, after a little while, sex is anything where you can get a sexually transmitted disease or infection from. Because I'm thinking of it in context not of myself, but of her as a 13-year-old girl. She's learning about sexually transmitted infections right now. If you can't get one of those, making out, that's okay. Other things.
And other things.
Anything where it's not like very clear that you could get a sexually transmitted infection from, I want her to be careful and be responsible and everything. But in my mind, like that's okay for her to be doing at a younger age before necessarily she's a sophomore in college. Mm-hmm. So, and that's where I landed on to telling her what I thought sex was.
Not to burst bubbles, but she's probably going to engage in sexuality. They both will. Before.
Oh, yeah. Wait, what?
Well,
I did.
You work in medicine?
I'm in the Department of Medicine.
Okay, yeah. My answer to that question was so completely different. And I just love that lens, how different it was.
I wonder what was yours.
I'm not sure it's the right answer, but I said anything that would require both parties to consent. Like if someone grabs your hand and you don't want them to hold your hand, you say, please stop holding my hand. I think you've just entered a realm that has something to do with like the development of sexual awareness. I don't think holding hands is sex, but if there's a question of consent and it's not easily answered, then that's where that question lives. So that's kind of how our conversation went. We never even mentioned sexually transmitted infections, which I definitely have to go back and do now.
Well, that's really cool. I really love that idea of framing it that way. That seems really cool. So now I'm going to go back to my daughter and tell her that as well. So that's good.
That's how our conversation went, I think. And then she's like, that's silly, Dad, holding hands. I was like, well, like if you're holding hands with your friends, that wouldn't be weird. If a boy you have a crush on tried to hold your hand and you'd have to kind of think about like, I'm okay with this. Is this the right step? Then that's the area you are.
Or someone you don't have a crush on.
Exactly right.
Even more so if you don't have a crush on.
What do you do? Yeah. So it's a full spectrum that begins there and ends at, we did a whole lot of ... in the middle.
Right. I love that way of starting that conversation with consent and like saying like, okay, if you don't, anything that somebody does that's sexual or erotic in some way. I mean, holding hands, how erotic is that? But that's where it's going.
Yeah.
If you don't teach that agency, so many girls grow up into women who don't feel like they have the agency to even say no to somebody holding their hand, to somebody touching them, to be like, I don't want this. I mean, if you like gave me food, I didn't want it.
No, thank you.
This idea of like, well, I shouldn't really hurt somebody's feelings. I need to let them down. It was like, no, I don't want this.
Yep.
So I wanted to ask, did either of you bring up that it's fun? That it's joyful and fun?
I didn't need to because my wife has been telling my daughter that forever.
Your wife has been telling your daughter that sex is fun forever?
Yeah, for a very long time, ever since I can remember, actually, because my wife is very regretful that everybody was telling her how terrible it is to have sex and how you don't want to have sex, and nobody ever told her that it was actually fun until she actually started having sex. So that she was like, wait a minute, anybody tell me there's this other really good part about it?
The best part.
Right.
I know you guys, and is it like contextually like in watching a show and sex comes up and then it's like she chimes in kind of thing. Like that's not how it is in our home.
Good morning, sunshine. Sex is fun.
Hey, quick reminder,
Another day.
Doesn't get better than sex. Anyway, what do you want for breakfast? Scrambled or fried?
So we have never really had, an age where we started talking about sex with our daughter. It was always just she asked questions when she was very young, before she was 3 years old. My wife wasn't even home. She happened to ask me, so I just answered. I was just like, people have sex. A man has a penis, and women have a vagina, and it goes together. And there's sperms that go in there. Well, she was asking where where babies come from. So,
sex and babies are two different things.
Correct.
I mean, I was very conscious of her, being gay for a long time. And one thing that, I picked up on was we have a very fun house. We make fun of each other all the time. I caught myself a couple times when she was young saying oh, is there a boy that that you really like at school that you have a crush on? And I was like, there's no reason for me to put her in that box and make her feel awkward if she's feeling like she's gay. Why can't I just say, are you in love with someone at school? Don't put a gender on it.
And that was so deeply ingrained in all of us.
I know,
right?
completely. And it took me, I'm glad that I kind of figured that out pretty quickly. And I just heard myself saying it. And I was like, what if she doesn't like boys? And I'm making fun of her and putting her in that box. And then only after, when she started giving me signals that she wasn't gay. But still, even now, I try to avoid it because there's just no reason. She's 13. I mean, what does she really know? Absolutely nothing.
Well, I mean, nothing and everything, in the sense that anything is possible. But at the same time, when I was 5, I liked boys. I really liked boys. When I was older, I was like, if I fall in love with a woman and if I want to have sex with a woman, life is big and varied. Yeah. And it just never happened.
I think my wife and I talk about talking with the girls about sex more than we talk about sex with the girls. I think there's just a lot of are we doing this right? If someone's writing a story about how we're talking to them about this, what would that story be like? And are we okay with that story? And we aren't satisfied. I don't think either of us feel like we're nailing it. It just feels like such high stakes stuff. It feels like the way my parents described it to me did a number on my head for so long, and they did the best they could. I also am doing the best I can, and I know I'm going to do it wrong. And so it just feels like I don't want to create core memories. I don't want to say the wrong thing. And so I just kind of usually stop a few clicks shy of maybe what my intention was. That not putting them in a box. We talk about that a lot and make sure that if we ask about relationships or crushes, and don't gender that, because it's already complicated enough. Why do we need to add that piece to it?
So much of the outside world is going to do that to them.
That's true. Yeah, they get plenty of that, and it doesn't help them find any answers. So I wouldn't describe our relationship at home around sex in a similar way. There's not a very strong, consistent voice describing the joys of it, but we do talk about it as really a fun thing to do with people you love. If everyone's consenting to what's happening.
If all 13 of you
listen, you got all 13 to sign the waiver. You got to get the lease taken care of. No, but if both parties, or whatever number of parties, are into it and are feeling good, then it really is an incredibly fun and exciting way to celebrate and connect. It's a nice way to connect with other people. So, but we don't go as far as casually describing it. It's it's sex talk time. I get it. Let's not forget that it's also fun.
I know it's so much easier to think about what you're going to say than to actually say it. Those kids I mentioned in Italy, when the girl she started dating her first boyfriend and they started having intercourse. It's sex. They started having sex. To me, sex is the umbrella. Mm-hmm. She's like, you never asked me questions. And I wanted to be the cool, because they thought of me as their older sister. Even though I'm just a few years younger than their mother, I wanted to be there for her. I wanted to talk to her. And then she's like, you don't ask me. I want to talk to you about what he does with his hands. And I'm just like, it was really, I was like, okay. But she could tell that I was uncomfortable.
You're hearing Ray and I tell our stories and you're like, yeah, I too dropped the ball. Okay.
I have this theory that if we could just teach children from a very young age that it's fun, if you could plant that seed, because there's so many conversations that you have with them where they might understand the words, but they don't understand the concept.
Yeah.
But if you could just start telling them it's fun, so that when they're in a situation where this isn't fun.
Yeah.
This must not be sex.
Yes.
This is something else.
That's
Because I would really
that's a good
love
goal.
to stop conflating sex and crime, which is what we do so often.
It's maybe off topic, but that is the approach my parents took with drugs. It's a very similar kind of like, how are we going to talk about this? And I'm not sure that was necessarily a great way to go. It was people love drugs because when they take drugs, they've never felt better in their lives. It's really good. What happens is then they make choices that are dangerous and harmful to the people around them to pursue that feeling. But I stopped listening halfway in that sentence. I was like, whoa, wait a second. They feel great. Thank you. Which ones?
Okay.
And how do you spell them? And where do you get them?
And which ones are the most fun, fun and the least
And we'll be
fun?
talking prices with it. Who do you
Yeah. And completely unrelated, my allowance. Can we up that by about 100%?
Markets. I think that has worried me just personally, because I think that kind of backfired in some ways. And so that has given me pause. But hearing you describe the full arc of that story, the way the actor involved would say, wait a second, this isn't fun. And I heard it was supposed to be fun. So I at least need to pause here and say, what's happening? This doesn't feel like I thought it was supposed to feel. That's really smart.
As a former girl, as somebody who grew up getting a message that once you've said yes to it, to whatever that it is, right? To like whatever that sexual activity is, you can't back out. Otherwise, you're going to get teased, you're going to get name called, right? Or you could be shamed publicly or at the moment, or worse. And you don't know. You've been told that men are these machines that once turned on can't necessarily be turned off.
Mm-hmm. Social messaging you're getting? Is it someone telling you that?
I don't remember my parents ever saying that.
Yeah.
I do remember my dad sometimes talking about like, well, mini skirts when girls and women wear mini skirts. And we had a conversation years later. I was like, people rape people. People commit sexual assault. Clothing does not.
Yeah.
And I've actually started asking male colleagues when I see them kind of maybe going down that road in a story. I'm like, okay, what's the article of clothing that you wear that like shows off your best body parts that if you were sexually assaulted, you'd be like, fair enough.
Kind of was asking for
it. I mean, like, have you seen my abs in this shirt? Have you seen my, like my pecs are like, but yeah, this idea of, I mean, I think, I don't remember anyone ever telling me it was fun. I think they must have. Mm-hmm. But this idea that if you can just start to plant that seed, then this would also help little boys too.
Yeah.
Oh, this isn't fun. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know what this is.
Something's up.
Right.
But it's not what you told me sex-wise.
Yeah. Exactly.
You were going to say something.
Well, just the kind of the counterpoint to like you were saying how intentional you are with your girls about like thinking about it. We really don't do that. I mean, we never really have. We kind of decided, I think we were intentional very early on to like be very open and everything like that. And part of it is our personality that we're kind of goofy, particularly my wife. She like has the humor of like a third grader boy, not even a 8th grade boy.
Or girl. I don't know that you hung out with a lot of 8th grade girls.
Yeah, well, and she just is like all the time cracking jokes and like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
Like anything that comes on the TV and always asking probing questions and stuff to our daughter. We don't think about it at all.
Wow.
I don't like anything being, not intentional, but I think that we are a little bit intentional about like being so open and honest about it that we're not going to have like a scripted plan or anything like that. And I think that just flows better with our personalities.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to hear you said like the differences, because I know that all of our kids are really well-rounded and great. It's just different styles of going about it. It's kind of neat.
Absolutely.
What did you tell them that their sexual organ is called?
Just said vagina.
I said vagina.
Yeah.
Oh, judgment.
Yes. Sitting here
staring at comrade clitoris.
Staring at a clitoris model, I should say.
Please clarify.
Yes.
Yep.
Female genitalia first and foremost is the vulva, but then really the sexual organ, like the part of the vulva that is the pleasure point, is the clitoris.
Yeah.
The vagina has hardly any nerve endings. The vagina is that which gives men pleasure, and the fact that we
refer to it that way,
that we call female genitalia by that which gives men pleasure, is changing.
Mm-hmm. I'd not thought about it that way before.
I'll say that I didn't describe them any parts as genitalia, and when we were talking about this, my daughter already knew all the different parts from school. Even
did they talk about the clitoris?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can get back to you on that.
Really curious if that's changing too, because it's going to have to.
Yeah.
Because the vagina is it's the birth canal. Mm-hmm. It's not sexual
part
organ.
of the thing.
Like it's not. Yeah. I mean, it's attached to it. Let me backtrack a second. When you grew up, were you told outright, or did you sort of absorb messaging that boys and men liked sex and wanted sex more than girls and women?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't be specific and say like exactly where it was, but I think it may have been just throughout, everything, after school specials, through the neighborhood, my parents, everybody.
Three's Company, like everything you could think of. There's like the dude pursuing and a woman being pursued and then deciding or relenting or maybe, I guess, or no. Like there's just that's just the dynamic.
Is that something that's played out in your life?
What do you mean?
Have you found that you have wanted sex more often than your female partners?
I haven't. No, I've found it to be pretty equitable. I will say that I have a previous marriage, and with that individual, I think there was a disparity there. Like, I won't say who.
Yeah.
One of us wanted it more than the other. And that was, a one-time thing. I think that after that, I dated lots of people, and I thought it was pretty evenly spread out.
You divorced, so that was also, you just didn't like each other or want each other. I mean, I don't want to be an armchair therapist. Yeah.
Did you start billing already?
That could be a dynamic, right? If it's a relationship that had problems.
Yeah,
the relationship is no longer with us.
Yes. But the other thing that I've noticed is that, thinking about it a little bit, between the women that I know and that I've been fairly close with, and then the men that I know that I've been fairly close with, there's been pretty much an even distribution of people that were fairly asexual and not really interested in dating or sex, anything like that. And then on one end of the spectrum, and then on the other end, the complete horn dogs that were always out for sex. I've found it equally distributed between women and men. And like, I know more men generally than women, so the absolute number is bigger, but the distribution is pretty much the same.
Spoken like a scientist.
Right. He can see the graph in his head. Like, my lived experience is very much in line with yours. I would say that the reality is that it's just as many men and just as many women as I know on that spectrum. It's not, I wouldn't say that overall in my lived experience, it's always the dude who wants more.
I call this a myth-busting show. And
yeah.
when people ask me why I started it, I will tell them it's lived experience of many, many women complaining that the men in their lives, whether it's a 1 night, 1 week stand or their partner, just couldn't keep up with them. And part of that is the refractory period.
Yeah.
And part of that is also the way that I experienced it. I was like, oh, like you said, like everything told me that my category liked sex less than your category.
Yeah.
Right? And then when I got old enough, I was like, oh, that was bullshit.
Yeah.
So everything lied.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the religious baggage. Didn't feel shame about that. I was like, okay. So the messaging was wrong, and now let's just get on with life.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that I never really thought about it in relative terms. Like, I had the perception that boys wanted sex a lot. Not necessarily that they wanted it more than women. I didn't know anything about what women wanted whatsoever.
Well, yeah.
But I don't want to necessarily say that I thought that it was a lot more than women, because I just didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. To maybe bring it back to the homework thing we were talking about earlier, the next day I jokingly said, like, did you submit my answers to the teacher, and did I get an A? And she's like, it's not like that. I said, I know. Like, well, was there a good conversation about it? And she said, yeah, maybe not as good as I'd hoped, but it was, we talked about it and discussed answers. I said, were you surprised by any answers you heard? And specifically, were some of the answers you heard from boys in line with what the girls had said? She says, well, all the boys just answered it themselves, what they thought their parents would say, and then signed their name. And then the older one said, yeah, same for mine too. They didn't even have the conversation with their parents. I was like, wow, that is such a interesting, like, they all just professed as being way too nervous. I don't want to do that.
Oh, there needs to be like an assembly situation. There needs to be a school event where the parents have to come and have to be put on the spot.
That's how it was for me in my school, where we had to go after school and all the boys had to go in one cafeteria, whatever they call that, like cafeteria auditorium thing, and then watch a very just awful reel to reel video of like, this is how babies come out, and this is like, it's like, Jesus, this is not doing what I think you hope it's doing. And like then lights come on. Any questions? Like, yeah, many, and none of them. I'm going to bring up here, and it's just you and all of your friends, all the guys you hang out with. Like, let's get out of here. And that was kind of the thing. But there was an assembly in that way. But yeah, it was interesting that even in the best efforts, and even in a pretty liberal space, trying to like, hey, let's open up about this.
I didn't follow up with my daughter at all, and I should have done that.
Oh, it's
that's
not
a
too
really
late.
good idea. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You have a lifetime to follow up with her, but no, like that. So that'll be part 2.
That's
This
right.
conversation.
The
So when you ask if they've been taught what the clitoris is, well, if I can just drive home, just like talk about the clitoris.
Oh, sure.
Just talk about the clitoris. Just
Sure.
like,
You
you can get 3D. You can buy 3D models. You can.
I'm gonna let my
I will
wife
give
do
you some
that.
sticker party
Yeah, I
gifts.
think
She has
that
the
could be-
equipment. She can explain
Wow.
her equipment
Yeah.
to each other, and
Now that you say it and I see it there, like that would go a long way to like, let's just blast through a whole bunch of myths here. Let's like, like we can all kind of visualize a penis. I'd rather not, but you can. Like it's something you can just and like, oh, you can just assume that. But we don't have such exposure to the clitoris.
This was not proven to look like this until 2005.
Yeah,
20 years ago. It is not of legal drinking age yet.
That's pretty wild. So yeah,
But
so like
that
this-
tells you a lot,
Oh,
right?
it's everything.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think also like not to, keep circling around, but like the whole patriarchy is benefited by a story that says men pursue, men have greater desires, men take what they want. Like that whole like it is a narrow lens through which to see a pretty sick society all around.
It's very modern. This perception in the Western world is very modern
No,
because
tell me more about that.
Up until modern times, in the West at least, in the global North, women were considered uncontrollably hypersexual and men were more chaste. So when sex was considered a bad thing and you only did it for procreation, everything else was sodomy. Having intercourse with your pregnant wife was sodomy because you can't get pregnant again. So that you're not having sex for procreation. That's just lust.
Okay.
When we thought that sex was bad, women loved it.
I see.
There's still so much problematic science rooted in social constructs, patriarchal social constructs. But when we started understanding, hey, sex is not bad, and understanding that most humans are going to have far more recreational than procreative sex.
Yeah. Then
Then it
becomes
was like, oh, men loved it.
got it.
And
It's
women
good.
did
And
not.
I see. Yeah, well, that's wild. Yeah. Thanks for breaking that down.
In the Middle Ages, there's some like famous saying, one cock, one rooster can please like 10 hens, 10 men couldn't please one woman.
And that was like said in a way to be to denigrate women.
Yeah. I was going to ask, this is something we were talking about, Ray and I were before you showed up, Greg.
I was
Faking orgasms.
invited. It wasn't just like I knocked on the door. I was like, what are you guys talking about? I go, sure, I'd love to.
we were having this nice conversation.
We just have to have
Greg
a
was
third
wild.
microphone set up.
Hoping someone walks by.
Have you ever, and if you want to talk about the Seinfeld episode, but like, have you ever suspected that a woman has faked orgasms with you?
I have suspected
You
it
have?
for
Oh,
sure. I don't know for sure. Yeah, that's a very funny Seinfeld episode that everybody should rewatch because it's really great how Elaine it tells Jerry that she was faking with him.
Yeah.
And it ignites this big controversy. Of course, the whole show is about that. Like when Elaine says this, that she faked it, it's a little bit like, ooh, controversial, but not funny at all. Like it's very believable that Elaine as a woman would have been faking orgasms. It wasn't unbelievable. But at some point in the episode, Kramer, of course, comes in and says like, oh, I faked it before, and then see, like,
Yeah,
it's
it
funny.
makes
Like
you
the
laugh at
question
it.
is like, why is that funny?
Yeah.
Because the thought of a man faking it is so absurd to us in our current construct of how sex is supposed to be with a man and a woman. We can't imagine a man faking it. But then, me and Natasha were talking about it, and I told her that I faked it before.
You have? Wow. That's fantastic.
So it's not unheard of, at
Yeah.
least in my little world.
I can't say that like I know for sure none have. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know. I've never like kind of said like was that a real one or did you fake that one? Like that's never come up.
I will say, and I can't speak for any of the women you've been with, but like that most women have.
Oh yeah, I mean it makes
have-
it gotta
because-
end at some point. Like I have shit to do. And this is fun, but like
I wasn't that good. You're talking about the patriarchy, like it's ingrained in women to please men.
yeah, absolutely.
And also the lack of knowledge about our own bodies.
Yeah.
and what we do. And I was telling him, and I think I wrote this in the notes, like when men and women masturbate, they both orgasm at about the same time. So there's nothing elusive.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Right,
Time-wise.
about a female orgasm. You just have to know what to do, and you have to get away mostly from the P and V model, because only about, I think, half of women can orgasm through, it's not even vaginal stimulation, it's vaginal penetration, because it's all clitoral stimulation.
Yeah.
The whole other thing is that men will have significantly more orgasms than women. And in hookup sex in particular, it's like men will have, I think the first time, like 85% will orgasm and 13% of women will, or something like that. All the messaging tells women, you see movies.
This is the way.
You see movies, you read, I don't know, you read Cosmo or you read things, and like, it's just the idea of like two people orgasming together, if you're talking male and female. Again, all three of us are heterosexual, so we're having a conversation about, mostly about heterosexual sex, but you just have so many women that feel like there's something wrong with them.
Something's not right. Yeah.
Right. And that's, I would think that they would know, but they would just be too bashful, or they would think it was too forward to explain it to whoever they're having
there
sex
is that.
with,
No, there's some that don't know. Yeah, I should clarify. There's some that don't know, but for a lot of women, because you're taught that you don't like sex or you don't want sex, or you're not supposed to, being forward and telling someone that this is what I want, or this is not what I want, because it could hurt somebody's feelings. You're like, oh, that doesn't do anything. Some men are very bashful, but the amount of men who have just like put a finger on the top of like a woman's head and been like, okay, now, like without saying, could you go down on me?
Oh, whoa. I didn't know what you meant there. Yeah, that's wild.
It's a thing where you're just like,
what? Wow.
No, we need to talk about this.
A lot of what you just said, it just sounds like it's just a real lack of any kind of empathy whatsoever for the other person that you're with.
Yeah.
Like the whole somebody tapping you on the head and just pushing you down, that was like, I cannot imagine doing that ever to somebody. If I wanted that for some reason, I can imagine like perhaps modeling good behavior.
Or just I guess because, I don't know, every relationship is different, but like I'm not doing most of that stuff with someone with whom I'm not be able to say like, hey, it would be feel freaking amazing right now.
Right.
I mean, would you consider like, and then they would say like, you know what? I'm not into that right now. And you're like, okay, I'm happy I asked and we can move on. Or like, you know what? I don't know anything of that myself. Let's go. That's a fine. Yeah, but you're right. There's a real, if you don't believe you're interacting with someone with whom you care deeply.
I've had hookups. Like, I think we've all had hookups where you don't have to care that deeply, right? But you have to respect the person. Right. Yeah. You have to acknowledge their humanity. The other person
is a whole person unto themselves with a whole bunch of ideas and preferences and things that they might like or not like. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Maybe I just want to be liked. I don't know.
I'm learning a lot. Does that answer the questions you're hoping to get answers to?
Yeah. Are there any that I haven't asked you that you feel I should have? Anything you want to ask me or each other?
I mean, I'm trying to think of anything that would be specific to dads of anybody that wouldn't be touched on other places.
And dads of daughters, I'm not sure that matters necessarily.
Well, no, it's I mean, you're specifically dads of daughters.
Part of it is like, I want them to feel safe talking about all that stuff. And also, like the three of us have great intentions of like, man, the system is fucking us up and it's sending us messages that are wrong and creating mythologies that are making us feel ways we shouldn't feel, right? And we should fight against that. But also, that's the world in which they live. They're surrounded by those mythologies and they're surrounded by these roles and pressures. Mm-hmm. And so our intentions are really good. And then when I leave this space and I'll go and be like, man, I think I'm going to try to talk about sex as being more fun, as like a goal. Yeah. That's a good thing to do. That's hard. Like I don't know how to make that like.
I'm sorry. I just had this image of you like throwing open the door in half an hour, going like, "Hey, sex is fun. Come here, honey," and put the finger on her head and be like,
you know this, right?
You're gonna get a phone call.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you do to my husband?
But there is I want them to feel the openness to say like, hey, I got some questions, or I'm so excited about this partner. And also I don't want to cross a line of like, hey, I need you to back up a little bit. Like I got a private space. I got a private life. You don't need to know everything I got going on. Yeah. So there's I know that I have a responsibility, and it's really hard to know what is the most loving way to tend to that responsibility and what is harmful in reinforcing societal norms and myths, and what is like going the extra mile to be welcoming and safe and to talk to. So that as a dad
how do you
of daughters,
maintain your own boundaries?
yeah.
So the answer isn't going to be none of your friggin' business.
None of your friggin' business. Yeah. Wouldn't you like to know? Like, not doing that. And we have a close family friend who is like, listen, you gotta keep putting yourself out there. Like if you withdraw and be like, oh, I think I did my job, I think I'm done.
Oh, yeah.
That's gonna communicate to them that window isn't open. So they're gonna roll their eyes. If you say, hey, you got any new crushes? Dance coming up, you think about asking anybody? And they turn beet red and they roll their eyes and like, oh, stop, That's not them saying, I don't want you to do this. I don't want this conversation. It's like, hey, it's a neat reminder so you have to keep going even though it feels awkward. That's a weird place to be,
I do feel like my daughter can talk to us. She brought a situation actually to me at school where she thought somebody had a crush on her. And she asked me, what would you do in this situation? And I was like trying to think about it in terms of advice to give her. But then that wasn't working at all. So then I tried, rather than giving her advice, I tried to just tell her stories about stuff that I did and ways that I screwed up. And I wish I wouldn't have done this. And I did this and I wish I wouldn't have done that.
Can you give us an example?
I'm trying to think if she's going to be really mad.
An example of what you were telling her of what you did and wish you hadn't done.
Yeah.
So one of the stories I told her was when I, one of the first people I was dating in 7th grade, I think it might have been 8th grade. And I didn't want my parents to know that I was calling somebody or interacting with them. So I waited to go grocery shopping with my mom. And then I went to a payphone because there was no cell phones outside of the grocery store and called this girl. And then I didn't know what to say to her. So I just sat on the phone for 2 minutes and we just said nothing to each other on the phone. And then I was like, well, okay, it was nice talking to you, and hung up. And it was like, I don't know what I was thinking. It was like I wanted to have a relationship with this person so bad, even though it was completely meaningless. It was like, what is that? You can't even talk to somebody about anything on the phone.
This generation doesn't necessarily know how to talk on a phone.
No, that's true.
Or get random phone calls. But the context is like, maybe this person that has a crush on you is in that same situation. They really like you, but they don't know what they're doing whatsoever. And I think I like that idea of trying to connect, rather than giving her advice, trying to say what happened to me, because she was really paying attention to me when I was telling that story. And she was like, yeah, I think I get an idea of what I should do. And then of course she talked to my wife, and my wife just said dink, dink, dink. And she was like, oh, that's way better. Do this.
I do want to pause and say, dad to dad, that she came to you is like, hey, this guy's got a crush on me and I want to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
What a win, man.
Oh,
that's unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it when she did that. It was shocking.
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure that she wasn't
just waiting
trying
for
to
mom
be
to come
nice
home.
to me, saying I know I'm going to go to mom with this, and that's where I'm going to get my
I'll
stuff.
throw
But
dad
I
a
want,
bone.
yeah, exactly.
Well, either way, take the win. That's
right.
impressive. That's a big one.
Definitely.
That's a great thing. Well, just the fact that you create these spaces for them is important. I don't imagine either of you gave the messaging if he's mean to you, that means he likes you.
No, God,
Or maybe,
no.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
This is when they're really you pull your hair, and I think that instills acceptance of really bad behavior.
I may have inadvertently, not if someone's mean to you, but if someone keeps on talking to you and is asking you lots of questions all the time and is being annoying to you, that means that they're paying attention to you, and they might be paying attention to you because they have a crush on you. Now that's very razor thin between what you just described as someone pulling your hair being mean. But I have another story about that one from my mom, which is really great. I'll just tell it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So she grew up in Paraguay, in rural Paraguay, dirt poor, dirt floors everywhere. And she was working as a maid when she was very young, 11 or 10, something like that, and not living at home, living with a family she was being a maid for. And she was going to school, and there was this kid at school who she told me he really liked me, and he wanted me to be his girlfriend, and so he kept on pulling my hair. And so then she got tired of it one day, and this is totally my mom. She picked up her desk and smashed it over the kid's head and then said, stop pulling my hair. And then the kid left her alone.
She wasn't wrong. I mean, she wasn't wrong to do that because so often from a very young age, girls are taught, no, if the boy's being mean to you. And it's one thing if you're something's being annoying or who's got game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
At the age of 7 or
Yeah.
13.
Right.
Or
That's what it was last week. We don't know what it is
Yeah.
now. It changes so quickly. But to your point, like you talked about calling a girl in 7th grade, like all of my attempts at like sharing my experience have flopped because it's like, yeah, I had a girlfriend in like 6th or 7th grade. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, that's not, we don't do that anymore. I'm like, well, you do something like it's like not even close. And they have given me like a lesson on like what texting means and what calling means. Like everything means very different things than it did. It's a very odd rearrangement. Well, from my perspective, where it's fallen flat when I'm like, this is what my experience was like. That none of that stuff exists anymore. Like that is none of those things. There's not 7th graders with boyfriends and girlfriends. Like what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
It's been a learning experience on that front.
Yeah, there's been a lot of change.
It seems like a healthier situation now for them all to be able to like they all talk about who's texting with whom and where is that what's the progression? You think it's different than that?
Thought that until I started teaching at SU, and because of the work I do, I've had a lot of female students come to me, and it's been heartbreaking to tell them no, it's actually better than it's been. But I've had students tell me like it's worse than it's ever been in terms of how men treat us and the violence and the like.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not.
And the inability to like talk to us and what they expect from us and all. So I don't know what happens between that gap of like the 13-year-old texting and then these 18 and 19-year-olds.
It seemed as though maybe this was just my experience, but like at that age, there was like there was an acceptable spectrum. Like you ask someone to a dance, they say yes or no. If they have a good time at the dance, then you can say, hey, do you want to be my girlfriend? They say yes or no. If they say yes, you could eventually get to the place where it's like you are exclusive. Like that's kind of like where you want to go with that person. And there was no like, but what are other options?
Yeah.
Growing up texting, like they're all swipey dating, even without dating.
Now it's more like, it's
online.
like I'm nowhere on that spectrum because I don't have that goal of being, there's not like one way that this can work. I just like spending time with this person, or I just like spending time with this person, but only when there's a group of us because we're better with each other in that way. But if it's just the two of us, it's awkward or weird, whatever it is. And that feels like a much healthier, like just spectrum of available ways to be with people. I think that's what I was referring to. I'm not yet to the stage of like the ways in which boys have a hard time talking to girls, and that can lead to aggression, and that can lead to very horrible situations, violent situations. I just meant like it is either you are either on that track and you are doing things on that track, or you are not engaged in dating at all, and you're not. So that was. It just seems like a healthier menu of available options now, of just ways to be with other people.
On that note, thank you.
Are we gonna start recording soon? You're gonna hit me?
When do you start?
Yeah, I feel pretty warmed up. I'm good. I can.
Got the vocal cords limbered.
I feel ready. Let's do this.
Thanks again to Greg and Ray, fathers of teenage girls who say they're still learning how to teach their kids about healthy sexuality. To reach out with your own tips, feedback, or questions, write or even send an audio file if you'd like to natasha@wlspod.com. Don't worry, I don't use anything without permission or consent, if you will. You can also leave comments on the Women Like Sex Instagram or YouTube accounts, or wherever you're listening. And a big shout out to another father, Jim, the newest Patreon member and our biggest superfan. His support means the world, and he says he hopes men are listening to the podcast, especially those who want to be better partners. Thank you, Jim. Women Like Sex is a flipped script production. It is executive produced and edited by me, Natasha Stojanovic. Website design and artwork is by Ted Nunez. Edesio Martinez is associate producer. For more episodes and swag, or to subscribe to the podcast or Patreon, please visit womenlikesex.com, the Women Like Sex YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is Women Like Sex. Pass it on.